Hey guys, so I want to take you through a quick crash course on how to do a buyer's consultation. When you guys are out there talking to potential buyers, the main goal is not to answer all their questions right then and there. The main goal is to go ahead and set up an appointment to sit down with them, hopefully at the office so they can see our professional office, do it in our conference room, or you can do it at their home, or you can do it at a coffee shop, whatever the case may be. But I'm going to take you through the process of how to talk to a buyer and how to get started working with them, okay, guys? And just so you know, this is kind of a crash course. This is to get you familiar and a little bit more confident about setting up the appointment. We can always prep you before the appointment, okay? But I will require that you watch this video so that I can ask you questions and we can kind of do a mock buyer's consultation when we meet. So let me get started with this, okay? So just so you guys know, I don't overcomplicate things. The main reason somebody's gonna wanna work with you is because they like you and they trust you. That is it. So as long as you have a great personality and you build rapport with your client, there's, in my mind, a 99.9% chance that they're going to do business with you, okay? So buyer's consultation, you set up the appointment, you're sitting with them at the office in the conference room, and you're sitting down face to face. Now, I will say one thing. If a buyer wants to see a particular home, let's say a friend of yours or a contact of yours says, oh, I saw this property on Zillow, can we go see it? Don't stop that flow. Go ahead and show them the property, even if you don't know if they're pre-qualified or whatever, because that meeting at that home is your chance to do this very buyer's consultation right here. So they essentially set the appointment up for you. And the cool part is if they actually like that home and they qualify, you might be writing up a contract immediately, okay? So don't stop the flow. Don't be like, oh no, we have to do this first before we do that. If they want to see one property, go show it to them. I'm not telling you to show them 10 before you go through this process though, okay? Just show them the one that they want to go see, and then after that, make sure that you have this talk with them. So here's how it goes. A client comes in, a potential buyer, and the first thing I do is really simple. This is my famous question is always, tell me about yourself. What's your story? I want to know everything from where you grew up to all the way till now. Tell me everything, right? And let them talk, right? Let them tell you about themselves. This is beneficial for multiple reasons. You're going to hear what kind of person they are, what things are important to them. And while they're talking, I always ask more questions because I'm genuinely curious. I want to know. I want to get to know people. I want to get to know where they came from. We might actually find out we have a lot of things in common as they talk. But this whole conversation is about you just getting to know them as a person. What also the personality style that they are, right? You're going to be able to tell whether they're a D personality or dominant, get it done type of person. You're going to be able to tell whether they're a big detail person and they want to know every little thing. You're going to be able to tell if they're an S personality that, is really a caring person and is, needs a little nurturing. So you'll get to know that all through this one magical question of what's your story? Tell me about yourself. That's how I start every single appointment I have, whether it's with a buyer or the seller. Let this flow. Don't push this. Ask questions within questions. They say, I went to college. I played football in college. Really? You played football? What positions you play? I always continue to kind of inquire things that I'm interested in. Okay. So that's the first part of the buyer's consultation. The second stage will be what I call the interview. This is where we'll be talking to them about what they actually want. Now you can make this as official and unofficial as possible. So I'm going to bring up a document that I put together here that'll show you kind of what you can go through. So this is a document. This first part of the interview document is something I borrowed from the Power team. It's pretty detailed. If you look here, this is a series of questions that you would ask a buyer to find out what they actually want. You'll be surprised. There's these sayings that people say, buyers are liars. No, it's not really true. They just don't know what they want yet, and we have to ask them 300 questions to figure that out. We have to keep digging and digging and digging to make sure we find out what they need. This document here is a good guide. You can read through it. I will actually have this document right next to this video, so you'll be able to download it yourself so you have this document. But it takes you through things like, questions like, what are the price range? What are the features you would like nearby? And it goes pretty in depth, neighborhood, schools. Also even has a home features priority list, which I really like, that actually says, must have, would like, willing to compromise, not important. Because some people have like $1 million dreams, but they only have like $200,000 budgets. So we have to figure out what is really a need and what is a want. What must you have and what's a maybe, or can you compromise on it? So this is a really good guide. If you want to keep it more simple, just bring a notebook, and this is my magical question. All I say is this: in a perfect world, what do you want? Tell me everything. Tell me about the house, the location, all this kind of stuff. And as they begin to talk, I continue to ask questions. He's like, oh, you know, I always wanted a big house. What does that mean? How many bedrooms and baths are we talking about here? Do you know what square footage do you want? Okay. They might say something like, oh, I want a big kitchen. Why do you want a big kitchen? Oh, I love to cook and entertain. Okay. Does that mean you would want like an island in the kitchen? Is that something? Oh, yes, I would really love that. Is it important for you to have granite countertops and things like that? You know, and you can continue to ask questions, you know, the size of the backyard, the location. I will say one thing about location: make sure you hone in on this, right? One of the ways that you're going to be drugged all around town without making a decision is not honing in on exactly where they want to live. Don't accept the answer like, oh, anywhere in Orlando. Okay, well, anywhere in Orlando is huge, right? So some of this will be actually dictated by what they can afford, right? So if somebody wants to live in Lake Nona, but they can only afford $150,000, it's probably not going to happen, right? So some of it will be dictated by that. But some questions you might want to ask them are, what do you want to be close to? Do you want to be close to your job? Do you want to be close to your family? You know, they might say something like, oh, my daughter just had a baby. I want to be close to her. These things will help you narrow down the location, because when you put the searches on the MLS, which is another video on how to do automatic searches, you want to make sure that they're going to be receiving properties that are narrowed down to a location, or you're going to be going all around town. Okay. So that's just a little side note on that. Okay. So now we've gone through the story. You spent some time with them, finding out who they are. You've asked them questions about that. Then you went through this list, or you asked them my magic question, which is, in a perfect world, what do you want? Tell me everything. Okay. And then let them talk and find out everything and this and that, and then you can start narrowing it down there, okay? The third part of this will now be kind of starting to talk about how we're gonna buy it, right? Do you have, you know, the financing? Are you paying cash? Those types of things. So I came up with this little document here because, you know, a lot of times people haven't gotten pre-qualified at this stage, or one of the things that you'll get when you're talking to people, so let's say you're trying to get somebody to meet with you, right? And they tell you, oh, you know, I don't think I'm ready. I'm going to wait for a year, whatever the case may be. You got to understand that most buyers, the top 3 reasons why buyers will tell you they're not ready to buy is either they don't have the money, they don't have the credit, or they're just scared. Okay. And, or they just think that things are going to be better in the future, price wise or interest rate wise. So before I even get to talking about, you know, getting them pre-qualified, I came up with this sheet. And these questions are strategically put here to educate them on things they might or might not know. And you can use this even before the appointment to kind of educate some people that tell you they might not have the money or the credit or whatever the case may be. So I want to go through this document with them. Hey, I just want you to know a few things about what's going on with financing today. I want to make sure that you understand that loans exist where you can pay anywhere from 0% to 3% as a down payment. A lot of people think that you have to put 20% down. There's a big majority of the population that thinks you have to put 20% down on every purchase. That's not true. There's loans out there where you can put 0% down. There's loans where you can put 3.5% down, things like that. And so just letting them know that, they're like, wow, is that even possible? Number 2 is I can often get a seller to pay closing costs for you, right? This is actually not that hard to do. This happens all the time. So if somebody's like, oh, you know, I have some money for the down payment, but I don't think I have enough for closing costs. Well, that's not a problem. I can work with that. So if I were able to get your closing costs covered for you, would you be willing to sit down with me, or would you be willing to consider buying a home now, right? If I do X, would you do Y? If I solve your problem, will you do what I want, right? So that's the kind of the route you want to go through. Number 3, you can get a loan for as low as a 580 credit score. There's a lot of people out there that think you have to have a 620 or 640. No, you can actually have suspect credit. And as long as you've been doing things right for the last 12 months or so, and things are looking in order, there's ways to get you financing. So, you know, you can't accept oh, my credit is bad. Well, what does that mean? You know, have you pulled it? What's going on with that? Why don't you allow me to help you so we can find out where you are? Because even if you need help with your credit, we're going to need some time to work on that. It's not like you can just decide one day that you're ready and then suddenly your credit magically gets better, right? We want to have some lead up time and get them on the track to buying a home. If it's not now, no problem. You might need to help them for the next 3, 6, even a year, right? But guess what? You need a deal in 6 months too, and you need one in a year from now, right? So it's okay to get these people on the process, right? And you have plenty of lender partners, including Home First Lending, and also credit repair partners that'll help people get their credit where they need to be. Number 4, a $250,000 loan equates at a 4.5% interest rate equals a principal and interest payment of $1,266 a month. Why do I put that in there? I put this because, a lot of times people say, oh, rates are really low, your payment's going to be low. Well, what does that mean? What can I actually buy compared to what I'm paying for rent right now, right? So if I'm looking at this and I can actually visualize, because most people can't do a principal interest calculation in their head, including myself, right? So now that they can see that, wow, I can get a $250,000 loan. I can buy a $250,000 home, right? And I mean, I know new construction at $250,000 in Orlando. So wow, you can buy a brand new home right now and pay $1,266, does not include taxes and insurance. But let's say you're talking to somebody who's paying $1,500 a month in rent, $1,700 a month in rent, $2,000 a month in rent. Hey, do you know how much you can buy? And do you know that if you buy this home, it'll be yours and that it'll be an asset? You're going to be paying down your own home with the money you spend every month. Did you know there's tax advantages to actually owning a home and you can write off the interest? There's so many incredible reasons for somebody to actually own their home, including the fact that once you get a fixed loan and a fixed payment, your rent, your mortgage is not going to go up. It's going to be that same payment. So now you're not subject to a landlord who's raising your rent every single year, which, by the way, in Orlando, we're one of the we've had some of the highest increases in rents in the last 5 years. Rents have increased 35% on average in the last 5 years. That is crazy. Okay. So this is just a way for you to continue to speak to somebody and educate them so that when they can't really even have any rebuttals to what you're saying. Like, this is all true and amazing. Right. And then number 5 here, it is literally, and this is no exaggeration, the best time in history to borrow money. Okay. Interest rates are the lowest they've ever been. Did you know that in the 80s, like an 18% interest rate was not uncommon? Like, that's what it was happening then, right? They're 4 now. They're like in the 4s. Like, it is so cheap. What does that mean? That means you can buy more house and you can afford a higher payment, right? So you're waiting for this, you'll get these excuses like, well, maybe next year you'll be ready. Okay. Well, let me tell you what is likely to happen in the next year or so. Interest rates are going to go up, which means you're going to be able to afford less, or you're going to have to be paying a higher payment for the same priced home. Okay. That's not a risk that you want to be willing to take. If you can find a home right now that you can afford and that you love, you should make that move. By the way, Orlando is one of the fastest growing cities in the entire country. You just have to look around. There's construction happening on I-4. There's cranes everywhere. Downtown is exploding. There's new construction neighborhoods coming everywhere. So you must understand that the long-term trajectory of Orlando, Florida is up. Even if there's going to be a market dip, it's eventually going to rebound, right? So the only way you lose money on a home is if you sell at the wrong time. So you shouldn't have fear about buying a home right now in Orlando. The interest rates are the lowest they've ever been. The homes are still great prices. Make a move now, okay? So there's that. So finally, let's talk about getting talking to a lender. So as you've educated them on this, say, have you been pre-approved already? They might say yes and say, fantastic. Can you send me that pre-approval letter? Because when we start looking at homes, I want to make sure I have that handy. Or they might say, no, we haven't talked to anybody yet. Okay, well, if you haven't talked to anybody, I got somebody here at Home First Lending who can help you. You can actually get that lender on the phone with them right then and there and actually get them pre-qualified, or set up a time for them to speak afterwards. I would make sure that you give your lender partner the number of the client to set up a time, because I don't want to put it in the client's hands to call the lender. I want to put it in the lender's hands to call the client, because obviously they have a vested interest in doing so. Okay, so now that we've discussed this, whether somebody's buying cash or getting financing, then we're good, and you can set them up to get pre-qualified if they don't have a lender. Okay, so that's this stage of the program. So we've gone through the story. We've now gone through an entire interview. By the way, they've opened up to you. They've told you things that are personal to them. They've already been connected with you, right? So what's cool about this process is, will they want to use somebody else after this entire process? Probably not. You've built a great relationship with them. They like you and they trust you, and that's all that needs to happen, okay? So the next section of this I want to go over is I came up with this document. And by the way, feel free to create your own, flashy, nice documents that are your style. This is all very basic what I created. You can do it however you want to and use my same information. So feel free to do that and be creative, okay? So this section here, what I like about this is I wanted to take people through the home buying journey. So I realized from doing these appointments a lot that a lot of people don't actually know the buying process. So it helps them to understand not only what it's going to feel like and be like, but it helps you establish your value, because a lot of you guys don't understand how much value you're providing. When I take you through this journey and you realize how much you're going to actually have to do, you're going to be way more confident in saying, you absolutely need to work with me. You should not go at this alone, okay? Because there is a lot of bells and whistles that you're going to handle as an agent. What also I want you to do is establish the fact that, guys, you guys add massive value and these buyers don't actually pay you. Do you know that you're working for a buyer for free? It's the seller who's going to pay you, okay? So not only are you going to do all these things for them, but they're not paying you, right? You're going to work first for a chance to get paid second by the seller. This is a no-brainer. You guys should be working with buyers all day long. Trust me, you're an asset to them, okay? So let's talk about how this goes. So we're sitting here at the buyer's consultation, and the first circle I put is choose the date. What I mean by that is we're going to choose the date that we're going to go see properties. I want you to establish that date while they're in front of you, because I don't want to lose that thread. So you have this great buyer's consultation. They're all excited. And then suddenly their life, happens again. And then school starts on Monday and their kids are this and somebody gets sick and they just, you can't get a hold of them. And, they're just put it on the back burner. I want you to set the date that you're going to go look at homes before they leave that meeting. So let's set the date in the next week or two where we can go see these homes. Okay. So we're going to set that date. We're going to put it in our calendar, and everything's going to be good to go there. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to tell them, hey, so this evening after our meeting, I'm going to do some research and I'm going to put you on an automatic email. I have a video of how to do this, guys. So you can go there and see how to set up an automatic email and save your searches for your clients. So you can save the search for your clients and send them automatic emails. So anytime a new property pops up with the criteria that they're looking for, they're going to get an immediate email, right? So you're going to put them on a search that evening. They're going to start receiving properties, okay? Once they receive these properties, you're going to tell them before they leave the meeting, hey, I'm going to send you these properties. I want you to look through them. What I'm looking for is for you to choose your top 5 to 7 properties, okay? And then we're going to go see them on that date, right? And that date will hopefully be selecting your new home, okay? So you see the next circle is go see and select your home. So you've sent them the searches. They've sent you the 5 to 7 properties that they want. One thing I will say is you want to tell them to send you those properties 24 to 48 hours prior to the date you're going to go see them, because some of these properties will not be vacant and you'll actually have to set up an appointment to see them, and they need lead time. So let's say somebody lives in the property. You can't call them that morning and expect them to be out of the property or expect to show that day. They might have family in town, whatever the case may be, right? So make sure that your client gives you the top 5 to 7, 24 to 48 hours prior to the date you go see them, okay? So once again, you go see the property here, boom, go see and select the home, you go see that date, boom. They find something that they love, you're sitting there like, they're like, this is the one, this is the one, Bobby, we want to choose this home. You guys need to be writing up that contract within hours of seeing it, right? Because if they like the home, it means somebody else likes the home, right? So we don't want to get, out offered by somebody else, right? If we decide, okay, cool, sounds good, I'll get back to you tomorrow with that contract. Well, guess what? What if another offer comes in that night and they accept that offer, So we want to make sure we get that offer in, okay? And I'm here to help you. Remember, I'm going to review all the contracts before you guys send them out. And I'm available to you by text and call 24/7. So we will get that done, okay? So the next thing is we're going to submit a winning contract. So I'm talking to the buyer about this. I'm going to submit a winning contract for you. And a winning contract is not only a contract that's going to make sure that we get the home that you love, but also that protects you. There's several places in that contract I'm going to put to protect you, the buyer, from losing your deposit, right? They're going to be certain places there. So that's something I'm going to handle for you, and we're going to do it that evening, and we're going to submit it, and I'm going to make sure that you're protected. The next thing is we're going to get the contract accepted. Fantastic. The minute that everybody signs that contract, that's when all the clocks start, right? The inspection periods, the financing periods, the appraisals, everything starts, right? So I'm going to make sure I take you through that process, simplify the process for you, and make it easy. The next step After that contract gets executed, signed by both parties, you're going to have to submit a deposit to the title company. You can drop off a check to the title company, or you can wire funds. I will connect you directly to the title company, and they will either give you wiring instructions, or they'll just give you the address and you can drive by there and drop off the check. You usually have to drop off that check within 3 days of this contract being executed and signed, okay? So you let them know that. Next step, we're gonna call an inspector. I have one. If you have one, that's fantastic. I'm gonna link you up with my inspector. You're gonna pay them directly, and we're gonna get that inspector out there as soon as possible, because we want to make sure that property is inspected within the inspection period time I've set on the contract. We just want to make sure that the home is sturdy, that there's no major components. Just so you know, inspections are always going to come back with stuff, right? Because if it's a used home, the inspector is getting paid to find stuff that's wrong. But the reason you use these inspections is not to like nitpick everything. It's so that we can find if there's anything major wrong. You know, roofs, air conditionings, plumbing. Sorry, sneezed. All these things are high cost items, the plumbing, the roof, the AC, and other things like that. So if we see something major, we'll have time to negotiate whether they're going to give us money for that, they're going to fix that, or if it's just too terrible and we can't come to terms, we'll have to cancel that contract and you can get your deposit back, okay? So that's what the inspection and the inspection period is for. The next step is you're going to be working directly with your lender, most likely, unless it's cash. But if you're working with a lender, we're going to make sure that you get everything that you need to get to the lender quickly. We don't want to delay. So whatever the lender asks you for, you need to get them that, whether it's bank statements or W-2s or whatever the case may be. The next step is the lender is going to order the appraisal. I don't order that. You guys will not be ordering that. It's the lender that will do that. So they will order the appraisal, and appraisal will come out and make sure that the property's worth what we're offering. Okay, so that's a protection mechanism for you guys, so that we make sure that we're not paying over market for the property, and that is what the lender will be lending on. The next step, after you got all your stuff approved, the appraisal is good and all that, we're going to review all the documents at the end. The title company is going to get us a bunch of documents that we're going to review. We're going to make sure the numbers are right, and you're going to know exactly what you need to bring to closing in order to make the deal close, right? Your closing costs, your down payment, everything, okay? When we know that amount, you're going to wire that money to the title company, okay, so that they have it and they're prepared for closing. And then the last thing will be a final walkthrough. So prior to us closing, whether it's the day before closing or the morning of the closing date, we're going to go to the property once again just to make sure everything's the same way we saw it the first time we saw it, that all the stuff is there that's supposed to be there. And so you'll be protected in that sense as well. And then obviously there's closing day, which is exciting. We'll sign some papers. It'll be great. And we'll celebrate. Okay. So that's the process. So now you guys understand not only how to explain that to a buyer and get them comfortable with it, but it establishes your value to them. Like, man, you're really guiding them through this process. And now you, as the agent, see how much you're going to actually be doing here. So you should feel very good about how much value you add to people. Stop thinking that because you're new, you don't add value. Guys, you're going to work your butt off, okay? You're going to get paid well, but you're going to work your butt off, okay? So next step in this will be, okay, so you've sat here with them. You've taken the time to get their story, do the interview, talk to them about financing. You've taken them through this journey, okay? And, you know, guys, block out a couple hours for this. I know it sounds like a long time, but if you do this right, you will save hours and days of time running around with a client that doesn't know what they really want. You're going to get it all sealed up this day so that you guys know exactly what you're looking for, okay? And then the last step is for them to sign a buyer-broker agreement. The buyer-broker agreement is what protects you from a buyer going around you, okay? It's an agreement between you and the buyer that you guys are working exclusively with each other, that you have certain obligations to them and that you're going to act professionally and do everything you can to help them and protect them. And they're also saying, hey, you know, you're working with me for this certain amount of time. I'm not going to go around you and use another agent. And I'm also not going to go to like an open house by myself without telling an agent that you are represented, right? So, you know, this happens a lot. So you have to educate your buyer. If they go to an open house on their own, if they go to a builder on their own, they need to say that they're working with you if they have signed this agreement. This is what protects you. You will then hop into the equation. Then you will help negotiate everything we saw on this journey here. You're gonna still be doing for them, but just the fact that they went to the property on their own doesn't mean that they're somehow not going to pay you, okay? Or if their sister is the one that found it on Zillow and whatever, it doesn't matter. If they're working with you in this contract, you're going to get your commission paid, okay? So I'm only going to take you through a couple of highlighted sections of this. You will want to read this document on your own through and through, but just so you know, I'm just going to take you through a couple of little highlighted important sections. Number one, obviously the parties to this contract. There's the buyer and then there's the broker. Just so you guys know, the broker with EXP is Andrew Schock. Andrew Schock is the broker. That's whose name you will put there. And the office is EXP Realty. That's what you will put there. This next highlighted part, the term is, how long is this agreement in place? When I'm working with a buyer, it's usually 3 months. If you know, agents can write anything in here. You know, you can write a year, or you can write however long. 3 months should be enough time to find something, unless there's going to be some kind of delay that you know about. Like they say, hey, look, I'm not going to be able to start looking for a few months. So if that's the case, and I want to work with them for 3 months after that, maybe I do a 5-month agreement or a 6-month agreement, right? But typically 3 months should be enough time for you to find them a home, okay? And you're going to put the start date and the end date of the term here, and there'll be a drop-down box for dates in that. And then this section here, you just put the type of property they're looking for, right? So you've already had this buyer's consultation. You know they're looking for a single-family home, or they're looking for a condo, or they're looking for a townhouse, or maybe any of those three. So you'll put that there. You'll put the general location there. Don't get super specific about the location. I would just be general location, zip codes, cities, whatever the case may be. Their price range, where they're looking for price range, and you can click here whether they have been pre-qualified or pre-approved. If they haven't, don't worry about it. It's not a deal killer, okay? So section 4 here, I won't go through all this. Read this. These are the obligations you have to the buyer. This is like your promises to them. So this is good stuff. You can read through this with them and actually show your value and what you're willing to do for them and why you're signing this contract, okay? Then you have the buyer's obligations to you. So you can read through that. They have certain obligations to you as the buyer's agent, okay? I didn't highlight section 6 here where it says retainer. Retainer means if you were accepting like an upfront fee, you know, for helping them buy this home. In this office, we don't really do that. It's just not something we do. You know, I think that, you know, you can charge that if you really want to. But what I use it for is that since I'm not going to charge it to them anyway, I go here and say, hey, you know, there's a lot of agents out there that actually charge you up front because, you know, I'm going to be actually, you know, basically working first for a chance to get paid second. And so they charge you that. But I'm confident that we're going to get this done for you, and I'm not going to charge you retainer. So then I use that to put a 0 there. So it's almost like I'm giving them a deal, and it feels good to them, and it's a good practice, okay? So there's that. And then this section here, section 7, compensation, okay? This is really important, right? This is where you're going to tell them that, hey, look, for working with you, I'm going to be getting paid X% plus the admin fee. So our admin fee is $299. So if you look right here, you can put the percent you're going to get paid, which is usually 3%, okay? I usually put 3% here to be paid, and then plus $299, which is our admin fee. So this paragraph here basically says, hey, you, Mr. Buyer or Mrs. Buyer, are responsible for this fee getting paid to me unless I get credited by the seller. And you will get credited by the seller. So any property that's listed on the MLS has to offer compensation. The seller's going to pay you the commission. The buyer's not going to pay it. But the reality is I only have a contract with the buyer because I don't know who the seller's going to be. So I have to have some guarantee that I'm going to get paid. The buyer's going to make that guarantee, but make sure you read this sentence here because it says, buyer will be responsible for paying broker the amount specified below plus any applicable taxes, but will be credited with any amount which broker receives from seller or real estate licensee who is working with seller. What that means is, look, the seller pays commissions. 99.9% of the time, the seller's going to pay it. They're not going to have to pay the 3%. The only thing they will pay is the $299 that we charge as a transaction fee for the office, okay? So if you have any questions, we can always talk about that. Don't worry about the rest of this stuff here. Okay, protection period. Buyer will pay broker's compensation if within X amount of days after termination date, buyer contracts to acquire property which was called to buyer's attention by broker or any other person. Okay, so basically what the protection period is you have your term of your contract, which is about 3 months. Protection period is an additional time after that that protects you in case a buyer decides to go back to a property that you or somebody else had found during the time you were in the contract with them and decides that they actually want to buy that now. So let's say you show them a property, they're like, oh, I kind of like it. And then a week later, this contract terminates. And then they decide to go back without you and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I don't have a realtor anymore. Let's just do a deal with each other. Well, this, whatever date I put here, says they can't do it for X amount of days. I usually put 90 days or 3 months. So 3 months after the termination of this contract, they cannot go back to a property that I showed them or was found during the time we were in contract and try to get in the contract with them, okay? So when I explain this to a buyer, I say, hey, look, this is just kind of a protection thing. I know you wouldn't do this, but sometimes buyers don't know, or they try to pull something where, they wait for the contract between us to expire and then they try to go back to the original person selling the property to basically cut us out. I know you wouldn't do that, but it's just a protection period that I put in here, 90 days, no problem. Okay. Section 9, I just highlighted this early termination. Just so you know, they can cancel this contract. So if they're like, oh, I don't know, this and that. Hey, look, if you don't like working with me, you can absolutely cancel this contract. Okay. So if for some reason, we get 2-3 weeks into this thing, you decide that I'm not the right agent for you, then that's not a problem. But do know that you can't do it just because, you saw a property and you think you can cancel this and cut me out of it. That you can't do. That's that paragraph. If you read this, that's what it states. You can't do that. But if it's simply like, hey, look, I'd rather not work with you anymore, or maybe it's a situation where they decide, hey, look, I'm not going to be buying anymore because, somebody got sick in the family. I can't do it right now, whatever. And then when I terminate, they can do that. Okay. And then we will continue. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's the whole contract. Once again, read this more thoroughly on your own. We can obviously go over any of this stuff in person, but I will tell you that if you want to sit down and get prepped for a buyer's consultation, I will require you to watch this video because I want you to have a certain grasp and handle on it. And that way, when we meet, we can, touch up the things we can touch up. And actually, I can do some role play stuff with you guys so I can see how much you learn. So hopefully this helps, guys. Hopefully this makes you feel way more confident about sitting down with somebody. As you can see, it's not that big a deal, right? It's really about building trust and having somebody like you, but this will help you kind of take them through the process. All right, guys, talk to you soon.